unite diverse communities, that is to engage in discussions, debates and networking around critical African issues. The topics encompassed the influence of technology in perpetuating social injustices within Africa. And Eric Munene had a chat with Mozilla African Innovation Mradi's Senior Programs Officer, that is Chenai Chair, to get to understand some more about what the foundation aims to achieve, and especially in relation to this unethical vices that certainly need to be addressed. So let's listen in to that.
Hi there. As technology keeps evolving, there are issues that are less talked about each day. We're talking about ethical issues, issues of social justice. And that is why today I have a chat with Chenai Chair, who's the Mozilla Senior Programs Officer in charge of Mradi. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Eric.
First of all, tell us what Operation Mradi is all about.
So the Africa Innovation Mradi project is a pan-Mozilla project that brings together Mozilla Corporation and Mozilla Foundation's superpowers, which is in product development, innovation and movement building, to actually be intentional about supporting and investing in the African ICT digital ecosystem, and then also building with community to ensure African-led innovations, and also being able to make use of what Mozilla has been doing time over time to hold tech companies accountable to ensure openness, privacy and trustworthy artificial intelligence.
So when we talk about tech and social justice, kindly take us through, what does that mean?
So when we talk about tech and social justice, it really thinks about it from a perspective of how do we make use of technology to respond to the everyday challenges we face as a community, and to do it in a way that is responsible and ethical. So for example, in our recent In Real Life awards that we did through the Africa Mradi work, what we asked for people was to think about if there's an issue that they want to address for a particular community, particular gendered minority communities, for example, how can they make use of technology or digital solutions to enhance the practices that they were doing to address whatever issues, but usually of discrimination and bias for this particular example that I've shared, to then think about how do they mobilize, how do they share information, and how do they ensure that their community is not left behind.
And so how does the Africa Innovation Mradi plan to strengthen local innovation ecosystems in the global majority?
Thank you so much for that question. I think what we've been doing is really taking on that intentional approach to work. So earlier in June, our colleagues at the corporation actually had the Innovation Week, which was really about supporting the tech ecosystem startup, and they started off in Kenya. So they had like a fantastic selection of people who came together for the tech ecosystem startup to pitch their startups, and now they're being incubated so that they can have sustainable support on how they can create business models and make their interventions work. And then with Mozilla Festival, which we are at right now, that our purpose is to actually then convene policymakers, regulators, builders of the technology, academia, creatives, and anyone who's interested to have a collective conversation to actually understand, okay, what are the questions that we have, learn about farming the orange flesh sweet potato and what they can do with it, feeding their families, making use of the paste to develop whatever else foods, and really ensuring that nutritional content value that goes upstream throughout for the whole family, and also has economic opportunities for it.
So what strategies are you employing as Mradi to ensure that there's movement building and community engagement, particularly in Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So as Mradi, so like I mentioned, we focus on the product work, right? So that really means like bringing the products that Mozilla has, championing Firefox, which is a privacy respecting browser. So shout out to everyone who's using Firefox, and Pocket, which allows for people to collect stories offline and read them. And we've really been working towards localizing that content, and also ensuring then investing into the innovation ecosystem. So really putting money behind our words, ensuring that we also support the network. And through Mozilla Ventures, we've also been able to invest in tech startups on the continent who are actually working on building solutions. And then with the movement building, we believe in investing in the leadership of people. So we have our fellowship model that then sees most of the work that's done on the continent being led by either our policy fellows or common voice fellows. And then we also do our research work, our grants work, where we've seen responsible computing challenge work, where we've had 8 universities in Kenya who are actually doing the first responsible computing challenge work around that. We also have the Data Futures Lab showcase that's actually happening tomorrow, where we've identified people who are working with data to find solutions into the community, and everyone's getting a prize, but there are other people, there's going to be an audience vote prize. And we've also invested in research. So through our work is also investing through actually asking the community to do some research into trying to understand what are the issues around tech and social justice. So we recently had a research grant that went out, and we received overwhelming response. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to announce who's received the grants. Our Creative Media Awards work also then ensures that artists also get grants and showcase their work. And then I think significantly, all of these things, what we then try to facilitate is the connections and the networks, and we're quite intentional about how we do it. So just because you're working on Common Voice doesn't mean you're going to do it on your own. You're also going to work with people who are working around responsible computing challenges. You're going to be working with people who are trying to address social justice issues. You're going to then come together to be a multidisciplinary, integrated network of people who are then trying to work together to understand the solution. Because I think the biggest challenge with technology is that oftentimes people who are building or trying to address an issue are doing it in a siloed way. What we're trying to do is break down those silos so that people can actually work together and have collective action, which ensures that people don't get tired. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to have a movement that's led by 5 people and then it dies down because they age out or something else happens. But it's a continued intergenerational program where people connect and really ensure that we're trying to maintain a healthy internet for all.
You've talked about people working in silos in the technological aspect. Talk about now Mozilla and particularly Innovation Mradi. You're doing some great things. They're huge. Tell us about some of your partners that you're working closely with.
Solution to social justice, where it moves away from this idea that tech is a silver bullet into anything that happens. So then for us, it's aligned in that bigger goal also of trustworthy AI. What we've seen is emergent discourse that's coming out of people talking about ChatGPT, continuously build up the work. And it's also important to know that the Africa Innovation Ready work is not just about Africa. It's also ensuring that we are in the global conversation of things, right? It's this is not like a side project to Africa, but it's how then do we bring that interaction from the global north to the global south, or what we call global minority to the global majority, and have that exchange of information. So it's making sure that it's a globally localized initiative where everyone connects on these points.
And lastly, how do you intend to measure the impact of your initiatives?
No, it's quite an interesting question, but from today, for example, talking to community is one way. So through talking to people, getting that feedback on how people felt about particular spaces. But we also ask the questions at each and every one of our programs to get that feedback, because we can only learn if we're asking questions and if we're listening. So we often then get that feedback of how this is something that can be done. And we're quite transparent with our community on how we would have shifted it. Coming to Mozfest House Kenya is a big response to that reality of
Mradi.
Ganziwa, I doubt Eric Munene knows what artificial intelligence is in his own mother tongue. Do you? You must be asking yourself that. I guess I'll leave you with that trivia as we come to a close. My business here is done. Yours is not, because what baby is coming up next, your baby experience that ushers you into the weekend in style. My name is Linda Lela. Thank you so much for watching Disruptive Friday. That is on TV47 Weekend Edition. It's a bye-bye from us.